Thank you everybody for coming back for Sarah, what's going to be a very interesting presentation. I'm excited to hear about it from Dr. Sarah James, who has just received her doctorate. So this is your first presentation as a doctor, is it not?
Absolutely, yep.
So I'm so excited to be here and witness that. So again, we will, if you're now hopefully on Sarah's stream about the theoretical and conceptual frameworks, mentoring effective literacy teaching. And if you do, again, want to write questions in the question and answer box in that, or we have a lovely group here that you can turn on your camera and speaker at the end and ask questions in person. So either way. And Leslie again is going to do timekeeping, and off we go. Over to you, Sarah.
Okay, well, thank you for coming to my session. And I suppose, like Jubilee, I'd like to reiterate the sentiments of, first of all, I'm Sarah James. This is a little bit about me, just so when I'm speaking, you can sort of get a sense of who I am. So I live on a bit of a property, and I love the bush, love the Australian bush. This is me, my dog, Molly, my new puppy, BB. They're both gnawing on their Kongs that I had in the freezer this morning to get them all settled for this session. 3 of my chickens, and yeah, me as my doctor in my doctor garb. Right. So to reiterate Jubilee sentiments, in the spirit of reconciliation, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. I pay respect to the elders past, present, and extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. As such, I acknowledge the Emad people and their land and thank them for providing me the opportunities to live, work and study in my area of Currumbin. I also wanted to thank Scarpa for allowing me the opportunity to present at the Praxis. So theoretical framework. I decided to have a go at presenting this because I found it a really tricky part of my thesis, and I thought I'd like to share some of the ideas and things around my thesis and how my theoretical framework came to be. I actually started writing my theoretical framework like about 6 months into my PhD, thinking, oh yeah, theoretical framework, you know, what's easy, coming up with diagrams, you know. And I suppose I had about 10 versions until I got to where I was. But had I not started back then, I probably wouldn't have got to where I am. It's that journey. It's that, like those, you know, I haven't used really anything of those initial versions, but they led me to create this one. So I needed to go down those rabbit holes and start thinking about them early on. So my study was on mentoring for effective literacy teaching, Australia's perspectives, Australian pre-service teachers' perspectives. And so the discussion today related to the theoretical framework is related to that study, okay? But yeah, and it's what I completed my doctoral study on. Now you might have noticed some shoes on my introductory page, and I've got some shoes here too, because I like to use shoes as a metaphor for my my work. I acknowledged shoes in my PhD because without shoes that tread the ground that we walk on, that take us through the journeys of our lives, just like shoes, literacy does the same. And so to me, they go hand in hand. And plus, I just love shoes. So to me, it was a perfect metaphor to introduce that idea of literacy takes us on journeys as well as shoes do. And I think that, you know, that's how I sort of connect my, my theory to it's probably my philosophy on life, you know, about you need skills to travel life. You don't need to be expert, but you need a set of skills to get through life successfully. So with a PhD, mine was a traditional type of PhD, introduction, literature review, ontology. Today I'm focusing on the theoretical framework. We had the methodology, analysis, discussion and conclusion. And all of those need to align. And throughout they need to have a sense of your ontology, your literature review, your theoretical framework, they all need to be woven together. Even though they're separate, you need to still pick up those pieces throughout, sprinkled, peppered throughout. And with that, you get clarity and sophistication. And so to me, I thought the idea of a puzzle is piecing together the puzzle. So my theoretical framework was, grappling with ontology, epistemology. Are they part of the theoretical framework? Are they not? Do they feed into it? Yes. How? All those sorts of things. So piecing together the pieces of the puzzle. So do you choose a whole, a pair, or parts of theories to make up a theoretical framework? I chose a pair, but two different theories, and I chose parts of those theories. Okay. So theoretical framework, a model for contemporary literacy mentoring. That's what I came up with. So I chose a part which was VYGOTSKY. Now, for those of us in education, we probably tend to know who VYGOTSKY is. So VYGOTSKY focused his theory around the idea that knowledge is not located in the mind, but rather a result of people acting on the world together. Okay, so that knowledge, it's about the idea of knowledge being a consequence of action, right? So this approach denotes that an individual's social understandings about the world are underpinned by interactions that then inform and expand on their development, and they form and expand new understandings. So VYGOTSKY exploited the notion that social and cultural agreement is mediated by culturally constructed tools such as language, materials, signs, and symbols. And these create uniquely human forms of higher understanding, of interaction, and therefore new experiences and knowledge. So, we communicate through language. How do we communicate? How do we use language? By talking with someone. That's social interaction. Okay. VYGOTSKY, so that's where, that was my first part of the puzzle. Knowing that I didn't have to use all of VYGOTSKY, I didn't have to use social development theory, I didn't have to use all his works. I could just narrow my point and find one that worked for me. So VYGOTSKY and mentoring. So my study was on mentoring. So VYGOTSKY proposes that when knowledge and skills are able to be processed socially, for example, pre-service teachers will therefore internalise those understandings. So from working with their mentor teacher and watching their mentor teacher do the skills and doing the skills with their mentor teacher, then they become inherent and they start to learn how to do them and understand them. So this point demonstrates that mentoring approach allowing ideas like professional conversations between the mentor teacher and the pre-service teacher to explore various opportunities through social means while they were out on professional experience. And this therefore facilitated the pre-service teacher's growth and development. So VYGOTSKY, some tenets of VYGOTSKY's social development theory can be applied to mentoring. Graves 2010 talks to the idea that knowledge is constructed by learners through social interactions and that learning is situated. So therefore, in this instant, that learning is the school and the classroom. Okay. We've got Dewey's experiential theory, experiential continuum theory. So this is the second part of my puzzle for my theoretical framework that I put together. And Dewey's foremost to this study was the idea that Dewey presented that links to the notions of the experiential continuum. And Kaldek talks about this when he highlights the idea that every experience both takes up something from those that which have gone before and in some way modifies in some way the quality of the experiences that come after. So as we learn from our consequences. So he's saying that the consequences actually inform our experience. That is, action and consequence lead to learning. Okay, so that's what Dewey was about. So I use the experiential continuum, saying we need to learn through experiences. So Dewey and mentoring then, Dewey highlighted the idea of the importance of a teacher being responsive to the capabilities, needs and experiences of a learner. So infer from this quote, and related to my research, is that the mentor teacher must organise the social and physical environment to allow pre-service teachers to engage with valuable learning in their professional experiences. This learning process is further developed through pre-service teacher and how they interact with that environment, how they interact with the mentor teacher, with the school, with the staff at the school. Dewey talks about and highlights that each experience is a moving force. You know, it's something that drives us forward and we're learning from it. But he also talks about the idea that not every experience is educative and not every experience is positive and actually allows us to move forward. So indeed, professional experience provides pre-service teachers the ability to build on skills and practices. And Dewey's experiential continuum in relation to mentoring allows that to occur. So that was a concurrent approach of these two theories put together. And then I also used a conceptual model called HUDSON'S 5-factor model of mentoring. But before I get onto that, I'll just talk about how these concurrent approach worked. So while it is noted that VYGOTSKY and Dewey, they're ideologically dissimilar in many instances, I decided that I would position the theorists in a concurrent context. So I wasn't saying that they even, you know, because they're ideologically opposed in many ways, I couldn't sort of say they agreed. Therefore, here I've used these together. So they're not actually used together. I've used them concurrently. And this resource does not attempt to combine the theories, rather use the relevant aspects and deliberations of each of the theories to channel a clear path for explicit mentoring. So VYGOTSKY reflects that learning occurs via engagement and working alongside a more capable other to transform knowledge. And Dewey talks about the experiential continuum and recognises the role of the mentor teacher and experiences of the pre-service teacher in real world context. So they sat side by side. So HUDSON'S conceptual model also helped me frame my mentoring aspect. Thank you. And HUDSON'S model is about 5 factors for mentoring, as seen on the screen there. And this model, you know, helped was the actual enactment. So we have the two theories side by side, and sitting around HUDSON'S model was around those theories was the actual application, the doing. And so this model was then constructed. So I'll let you read actually the completed illustration. VYGOTSKY, alongside Dewey, allowed for exploration of the social intricacies of literacy of teaching and appropriation via mentoring. With these two theories as a founding framework for mentoring the learner, the interactions and the teaching experiences are recognised. And then HUDSON'S model, as you can see here in the blue, sits around that, okay? And drawing on VYGOTSKY's and Dewey's work, HUDSON'S model helped me come up with this whole model for mentoring. And therefore, here we have, you know, the complete conceptual model, the pair of shoes together at the end. And a true thing of beauty, I would say. So I suppose that's where I'm at. So thank you very much for listening. And please, I hope I was informative in some way.
Thanks so much, Sarah. What shoes are you wearing right now?
I've got no shoes. I know, COVID, I'm like desperate to get out and wear some shoes.
That's wonderful and so interesting. And it was also great to see how you could take your whole massive PhD and then just pick one aspect and explain it so well and so clearly that kind of brought us into that little bit of your journey. So thank you, because I found that really, really interesting. If everybody else wants to, or if anybody else wants to turn their cameras on or ask a question, there is a question in the Q&A from Maya. Do you want me to ask that, Maya, or do you want to ask it? Maybe Maya's having internet issues. So Sarah, I'll ask Maya's question that she wrote in the Q&A. And she says, what is the main thing you wish that you'd known or understood at the start of your journey to develop a theoretical framework?
I suppose, yeah, thanks, Maya. I like that one, because it's really to slow down. I was so eager to sort of think, oh, you know, I can get this done. If I can knock this off, I can sit it aside and keep working on other things. And it doesn't work like that, because as I mentioned in, you know, one of those slides, everything's woven together, you know, throughout your chapters. So, you know, you might write your chapter and put it aside, but when you come back to it, you still got to do so much work onto it, because it needs to link here, it needs to link here, it needs to link here. So I suppose, you know, one of the main things that I learned was just, you know, trust the process, you know, go down those rabbit holes and come back out. And you might think at the time, like, I don't have time. I can't explore Bernstein. You know, what's he got to do with anything? But you learn a lot, and then that sticks with you. And actually, you know, a few months later, I was able to have a dialogue with someone about this theorist that I'd never actually knew before, but had read about and started writing about, thinking I would use him in my thesis, but I didn't. So it really helps start to develop your understanding of the different theorists that are out there and their philosophies and their beliefs. So yeah, trust the process, I suppose, is what I learned, because, you know, you're so eager to get through it.
Yeah, that's yeah, maybe we all need t-shirts of that. Trust the process. Hand them out to all the PhD students.
Yeah.
Oh, Maya was just saying her sister's car is broken down. She has to rush off, but thank you for that and answering the question. Yeah, great. Are there any, I'm just looking to make sure there are any other questions that I'm missing on. It's hard juggling the app and the...
Yeah, no, that's fine. And I suppose I wanted to say too is that, you know, with the theoretical framework, I think it was the part I liked the most of writing my whole thesis in the end, because, and I think that's why when I was thinking of what to do, I thought of that straight away, because it just came together at the end, you know, and it's like, because I had to go through what I went through, and I think I really enjoyed that part, you know, and I was talking to my advisors about, you know, I think I'm going to actually publish a section about my theoretical framework, because yeah, I don't know, the James model.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So I'm curious, can I ask, I mean, I haven't seen other questions, but if I can ask, like follow on with that, you said you know, what you wrote at the beginning, like you were writing about your theory from the very beginning, and then some of it you threw out, and some of it, did you actually like right away at the beginning when you saw VYGOTSKY and Dewey go, those are the dudes for me, and really get into them? Or were you kind of like checking out, like, how did you, I'm just curious, like, was there an aha moment of you had what you wanted, your research question in mind? Did you kind of do a shopping around for theory, or how, I'm just curious about
yeah, that's a really good point, because I suppose what it was my methodology really helped inform who I was going to try and focus on. So, you know, if I was doing grounded theory initially, which I didn't end up doing, then, you know, I would have been focusing on different theorists to support a conceptual framework that linked that alignment, you know.
Yeah.
But I ended up doing pragmatism, and so Dewey's a pragmatist, and so, you know, that aligned with my epistemology and my theoretical frame. So it all just clicked into place once you sort of start it's that puzzle, piecing the puzzle together. And so, yeah, I mean, I've been a constructivist, I've done grounded theory, I've done, I looked at all these different theorists, and none of that some of that is not in my thesis, because it was all learning to get me to that point. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it really depends, on your methodology. It's just your whole alignment, and you might have your alignment, and then you take a bit out and you put another bit in and see if that works better. Take that out, put this bit in, see if that works. It's this toing and froing. Yeah.
And I love that you went, I'm not wed to this one theory. I'm actually going to, use the different bits that combine that. That's where new knowledge comes from, doesn't it? So yeah.
Because, at first I thought I just have to use one and go, one whole theory, and that's theorist. And, it's you can just like your thesis question, you're finding out X, this tiny little X. You can use tiny little X of a theory to support what you're saying. Yeah.
Just how you explain. Gurmeet has a question: what goals you have planned for the future? Because she's curious, because you finished your PhD during COVID, and so is that maybe, Gurmeet, is that like research goals, or the question was just what goals do you have?
Yeah,
that's a pretty big question. She's saying just general, just what are your goals around this?
Well, actually, yesterday I just got confirmation that I have a paper published. My first publication came out, so that was exciting. Now I have to organise my ORCID and all that sort of stuff, so I'm doing that today.
What is it and where? Just let us know so we can.
I have to look it up now. I can't remember. International Journal of Education Policy and something or other. I don't know. Yeah. But so I've got that. So I'm working on, and I've got another publication under review at the moment. So basically publishing, and then I've been seconded onto, other research teams, like in the space of maths, which, go figure, I have no idea. But I'm working in maths at the moment as well. So just, I suppose working on research teams and trying to learn as much as I can. Like, I'm really enjoying meeting deadlines and I'm working with the lovely Amanda here that I can see on another research project. So just being busy on research and trying to start developing my space in the research field, and just carving out my little niche, I suppose, is what I'm trying to do. A starting point. Yeah,
that's great.
But thank you all for your support. It's lovely. It's lovely to see some faces too, not just names. So thanks for tuning in via video.
Can you see a way that you can apply your theoretical framework to these new projects, like the maths one or the whatever? Like, is that kind of sneaking in?
Yeah, so that's why they sort of got me on board with maths, because my survey instrument was initially created for science, and then I modified it to literacy, and the maths people want me to now use it in maths to see how numeracy is being integrated across learning areas in Australian schools. So yeah, that's where we're sort of headed with that. Yeah,
that's awesome.
But I have to brush up on my times tables. No, just kidding.
Get you some flashcards.